Hey guys, hope you're having a great day today. My name is Daniel, and in this video I wanted to explain myself from my recent Instagram post that I put out with my roll-off truck that I've got here, my 6500 roll-off truck that's got the rail system in the back there, that I use for my dumpster business. And I had some issues with my truck and coming back to Lafayette on I-65, and not just this truck, but any truck, even my Ram or your pickup truck, we can have issues out on the road. And what do you do when the truck is telling you there's a problem, and then really to diagnose and walk through that? So I'm going to share my recent situation that I came across with this truck out on the road, and hopefully this can be a help to you. So what happened with this recent situation was I was coming home with a 15-yard dumpster of mine that was loaded up pretty good. It was still not overweight. It was like 4.3 tons, so well underneath the limit that I'm able to do on this truck. And it was pretty windy out because it was out north on 65 of me, where they've got all the wind turbines, and so pretty windy for a reason out there. And so I was coming back south to Lafayette, and on the gauge cluster on the dash, it was telling me that I had low coolant. So the low coolant popped up first on my dash, and then within seconds, a symbol which I still don't have a whole lot of information on. It was a red X, and behind the red X is almost a full circle, but not. But at the bottom right, there's a little arrow, and so my understanding is that means that you need to turn it off and you can't restart it. You don't want, basically it's an emergency. Hey, we need to kill the engine. Hey, this is a problem. Something has gone terribly wrong, and so we need to protect everything and shut this puppy off. So what did the truck do? Within a matter of a few seconds, I mean, it was 20, maybe 30 seconds, the engine got cut off. As I'm going down the highway with the load, the sun was still out at that time, you can see in the picture, but it was like 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and thankfully this was, this time of the year. However, that meant that I'm now just coasting down the highway with a heavy load that's going to leave me on the shoulder. So I put it in neutral as I'm assessing the situation. I'm looking in the left lane, looking who's behind me, what's going on around me. Can I safely pull off to the shoulder? When's the next exit? There is no exit anytime soon. I'm not going to be able to make it to the next exit to get off to the off ramp. What am I going to do? So I put it in neutral. I tried to restart it. At the moment, I didn't really think about what was going on. I was just thinking I need to get this thing started so I can continue going down to the next safest place I can. Well, it allowed me to. I was able to start the truck up again. I then waited a second. I put it in drive. I was then able to drive a little bit longer, probably another 15, another 20 seconds, which then the engine killed itself again. And so, and maybe that's not the best term to use, but I'm then sitting, okay, this is truly not going to work. Something has definitely gone wrong, and I have got to get off the road. So I coasted off the road onto the shoulder, got as far over to the right as I possibly could, went and put out the orange triangles, because I've got to have those out there as well just to try to help. And so put those out there. Obviously, trying to reassess the whole situation. What's going on? Do I have any leaks? Did something blow? Am I overheating? What's going on? And so on this particular truck, it's an 06 6500 truck. This truck basically never goes above 170s, 180s, loaded or empty for the most part, until the last couple days. It's been 85, 90, pushing 90 a little bit more. And with a load, it has been warmer than that, warmer than normal. So knowing that, and knowing I had a crosswind that was pretty intense, knowing that it was at the end of the day, even though it was still very, very hot outside, I'd been running this truck the entire day. I believe I had dropped off 4 or 5 dumpsters, and I picked up several more all together for the whole day, running for hours and hours. And so this truck had been cooking for a while. And so with this temperature, I'm gonna go ahead and pop the hood here. With this temperature, really at the highest I've ever seen it, and of course it's not a digital screen, but just guessing where it was at, it was the needle was just below the 210 mark by maybe a notch or two, and so I'm assuming it was close to 200. So I'm thinking, okay, it's 200 degrees. That's really not that big of a deal for my Ram or other trucks that I've driven. That might be, you know, for the coolant. That's not anything. I mean, there's it's not cold, but it's definitely not as warm as it could be as far as an emergency shutdown. You know, that's a little extreme to me. So what I did was, as safely as I could, when I was able to, I was able to come check out the reservoir. This is a sealed unit over here for the radiator. No other access point. I'm assuming maybe there's a drain hole in the bottom. I don't know. But I wanted to check the reservoir, and of course it was running hot. So the indicator would be, you know, probably lower than normally if it was cool. And so I checked by, you know, unraveling this and then looking further down. It was close to the add mark, and I'm assuming that more coolant was going through the system at that time to cool the system. And that's essentially what the problem was with that indicator on the gauge cluster. So I didn't have any coolant with me. Because I'm so local, and my shifting of my, you know, perspective has kind of changed from RV transport, being in the mindset of everything is with me. I have every fluid, I have every filter with me. I can do pretty much anything I need to do out on the road, out in the middle of nowhere, compared to I'm running within a 50-mile radius. And if there's anything I need, I'll be able to pick it up. Somebody could bring it to me, no big deal. Well, that's exactly what had to happen. I didn't have any coolant with me, and so I called a buddy. He said, yep, we'll be there in 30. And he pretty much was. He was able to bring me some coolant for my truck, the right coolant. And we filled this up, I believe, full 2 gallons. And we got it from the ad, just about the ad, to the full here. We closed the cap. I basically understood that once this does cool down, there's going to be too much fluid now in the system. So the overflow goes simply down here to another little bottle here that the previous owner apparently just thought this was a good idea. I don't know, could just vent it to the atmosphere and just kind of send it like that. But this is what they did, and it's not a horrible idea, I guess. Not in the way of really anything else too crazy, but yeah, just to get me out of this pinch, filled this up. Simply the indicator apparently went off, that it was it got to the add mark and there was a problem. This sensor apparently was triggered. I don't know if there's a float in there or whatever it actually is, but this triggered apparently the whole thing. The temperature being at the highest that the computer wants the engine to be at, there was no more coolant, I guess, to be able to add to it, or it was low enough that was a problem. The combination of low coolant and it being at a temperature that it doesn't want to go past, I believe, is what triggered the computer and everything to shut the whole party down, losing complete power. And then once you restart it after that, if it's still maintaining the same symptoms of low coolant and at the same higher temperature, that again, it was at like 205 degrees maybe, it kills it again, and it will not allow you to even start it a second time until the temperature has dropped or you have met this I believe one of the two, or maybe the combination. Of course, allowing it to cool and then adding up the coolant that we put in here into the reservoir. That's basically what solved the problem. We were able to cap this off, started the truck up, poof, no codes, no check engine light. The check engine light never came on. Simply the low coolant and the temperature basically being solved at that point is what allowed me to restart it after those initial problems. So this is something that's new to me. In the Ram, I've definitely had times of being overheated, being out west, having my radiator completely gummed up, not previously power washing it out, even blowing it out with an air hose, something like that, and the engine literally getting 220, 230, 240, and serious warnings going off saying, hey, please stop, you're about to damage everything. This is a problem. And so with this 06, I was just kind of shocked that, first of all, I didn't think there would be much of any safety. I figured the older the truck, the more simplified things would be and less safety measures in place. Well, apparently I was wrong, dead wrong, because this thing shut the whole thing down to where I could not have even gotten to a higher temperature. And I obviously know, there's different temperatures in different places on the engine, of course. Different it's not one solid temperature throughout the entire system at any given time. It's of course a process. It goes through of cooling down and heating up, and cooling down, heating up. And so this kind of caught me off guard. It was kind of a shocker to me. And so for you in your business, with your whatever truck you have out there, whether you're a haul-a-tow with a similar truck like this, or just a one-ton pickup, when these lights go off, when these warnings go off, think through, how did we get to this point? Have you been running low coolant? Have you been running low oil? Are you burning oil? When's the last time your filters and fluids were changed? On this truck, I have not touched the coolant. I don't know when the last time. I don't know if this coolant, if the properties have broken down and they're no longer able to withstand normal temperatures outside, 70, 80 degrees. I was not pushing an over CDL load. I was still within, I think it was at 23,000 on this truck. I can, of course, go up to 26 being under CDL. And so sometimes these situations can catch us off guard because we don't know the history of the truck, or maybe we haven't been messing with it at all. To be honest, I haven't messed with most of this. I've done some fluids, some filters, but I haven't touched the coolant. And so for you, when something like this happens, it's kind of it can be a bizarre thing. There's times even with the Ram in the past where I've had electrical issues and all of a sudden they go away and I don't really have an answer for it. I don't know how it started. I don't know why it stopped. Sometimes you just don't have the answers until maybe something, happens later on, unfortunately. But sometimes we can piece things together and find out, okay, well, I don't have all the information in front of me, and maybe the computer doesn't even tell me what it even thinks, is correlated to be wrong. But this is kind of where I'm at this point. I had a lot of wind resistance. I had a decently heavy load on here, low on coolant in the reservoir, was at the temperature it doesn't want to go past, and the combination of those shut the whole truck down, which I'm so very grateful for, that this older truck, an 06 at least, older truck to me, is able to stop itself from being hurt. It doesn't just warn you, it just says, no, you're done. So I'm shocked. I'm still kind of confused that it still had fluid in here, but it didn't think it had enough, I guess. And instantly, once it cooled down, and I've had no issues since then. That was several days ago now. Since it's been topped off, no issues whatsoever, as if it never even happened. And so sometimes that could be even more aggravating than the original problem. You don't even know where you just were. So it's my recommendation to you to take an inventory, maybe even write this stuff down. Write out when you have kind of a ghost of a situation come and go, just out of nowhere, and you weren't expecting it. Write this stuff down, the symptoms, what was going on, what was the weather like, were you loaded, were you not loaded? When's the last time you checked on this fluid, that fluid? I'm assuming this truck probably needs, I'm not gonna flush it, but at least a drain of the coolant, which means I'm not gonna get 100% of all of the coolant fluid, but it would stand to reason that this truck is somewhat older and the fluid is probably overall not at its peak performance, ability. And so yeah, I added 2 gallons of brand new fluid, but that probably raised the overall, as it's completely mixed now with the system after several days, it probably raised the overall value or ability to cool, but it's probably still not 100%. So it's probably a good idea, maybe even now, to either siphon out from the reservoir or drain the radiator if I can, to be able to get to a much higher percentage of peak fluid, whatever you want to say, that's going to last, that's going to do what it needs to do to hold everything at a lower temperature for this coolant. So this is the situation that kind of ghosted me. Kind of shocking to me. Maybe it shouldn't be, but I am grateful for this truck and that it's still running for me. I got some more dumpster cans recently. If you want to check out my other channel here, I'll be talking about that here soon, kind of giving an update on there. And this truck I have high expectations of. It has to be running. It has to be working for me. And I've had some other issues that I know are completely unrelated with this truck. But when you are operating a truck of any kind and you have to have it on the road, you have to have it running right, these things can just really be the thing that you want to just tear your hair out with. You're confused, you don't know why, it doesn't make sense, it kind of just comes and goes, and it can be very, very frustrating. So consider these things when you are out on the road and you get some crazy warnings of your truck that pop up and you're just like, what's going on, man? What's this all about? Think through. Is it old fluid? Is it something that's disconnected? Is it something loose? Something that's corroded? You name it. Things can happen in any system on any truck. And so when that does happen, think through, just try to walk through the process. What could it be? What are the things that are connected? What things could be related to each other? And so that's what I'm continuing to do and learn on an entirely different type of truck, much larger and much different intervals and all these things. But yeah, hopefully this was help to you. Hopefully you have a great day today, guys. Stay safe and God bless.